Okay, good afternoon. So, as I was explaining in the last class, today I will be talking about one of the exchanges. Okay, so, how the settlement process is carried on in one of the exchanges, because there are a lot of differences in different types of exchanges, commodity exchanges, where the settlement takes place. So, as we discussed about the margin money or about different types of margin which gets calculated, or the different types of settlement process which takes place, or even it may be in terms of the various agencies which are involved or which is getting involved in this settlement process. So it depends upon different exchanges. So having said so, today I will be discussing something on in detail about how the trade takes place in NMC, that is National Multi Commodity Exchange. So this is only limited to National Multi Commodity Exchange. So basic framework of settlement and trade takes place across the exchanges in a same pattern. But only thing is few extra characteristics have been built up in the system according to the type of commodities which get exchanged, or the volume of commodity which gets exchanged, or based on the requirement and need of the co-partners, that is co-partners who are getting involved in the business, or it may be even the role and the working of the framework of different banks or financial institutions which are within the framework of this exchanges. So it depends on the type of the sectors, or also the type of commodities which are getting settled or transaction during that particular exchange. That is a factor which will be helpful to know here. So coming back to NMC, it's one of the oldest, established exchanges in India today. So they not only deal with agriculture commodities, but they do with other commodities also. So what all the commodities we do, all those things we have already discussed in our initial classes when I took the introduction part. So when I told about different types of exchange, so I have mentioned about what is NMC, when it was formed, who are the banks who are involved in this, and what are the commodities which are getting traded in this, and also I have shared some of the information about the volume of trade which takes place in this exchange and all those things. So having said so, first one, what we need to understand here is the exchange is fully automated, and the clearance and settlement is also fully automated here. And the lead bank which is doing all the operations here is HDFC Bank. Okay, it is called as a clearing bank. So HDFC is a clearing bank for NMC related commodity settlements. So it is fully automated. Please remember that it's a fully automated. The clearing and settlement, everything is done automated, and the clearing bank is HDFC Bank, which does all the clearing and settlement in case of NMC. And the coming back to the margin part, the software here they use advanced, well-versed softwares which automatically calculates the initial margin using VAR. VAR means value at risk. I think I told you about this in the last session when I was talking about the margin part. VR is value at risk. So value at risk is one thing which is calculated automatically by these exchanges, where they set the margin. Okay, that is how the margin set. And the MTM, that is mark to market margins, is set on daily basis. I told you, I explained you why it's on daily basis, because there will be on everyday trade what takes place, right? There will be definitely the movement of prices which is happening on the particular commodity on which the transactions are taking place. So there will be sometimes gain for buyer, so and there will be loss for buyer. So when the price goes down, buyer is at a the buyer gains by that. But so you need to compensate the difference. That is called as mark to margin, market to margin. Okay, so that is mark to market, and that is margin for the loss which is suffered by one person to be compensated by the person who makes the gain. So similarly, when the price goes up for the commodity in question, right, the seller needs to give that difference amount, that is the price at which the contract was signed and the price prevailing in the market on that particular day. So if there is an increase, then seller needs to shell out the difference amount to the buyer. So this is something which is done on daily basis. Okay, that irrespective of whichever exchange we are talking about. So the daily loss and gains are debited and credited accordingly to the respective party accounts. So who gains? If the buyer gains, it gets credited to buyer's account and debits to the seller's account. And if buyer lose, then it gets debited to buyer's account and gets credited to seller's account. So this is something which is done automatically, and it happens on a day, the time when the settlement takes place on the same day. So that is the second important thing you need to know about NMC, sorry, National Multi Commodity Exchange. Then comes in the same way, members' position are also computed on a daily basis. So members' position, that is whether where does the member stands? Okay, that is where the buyer stands and where the seller stands on that particular day. So who is gaining, who is losing, all those things. The position of the buyer is also decided on daily basis. So these are all system done. Okay, there is nothing manually which gets into it. So there are sophisticated softwares which have been developed here. So based on the transactions or the trade taking place on that particular day, right, automatically the settlement process and also the respective positions where the parties stay on that particular day is also calculated, and they automatically send the SMS also. Okay, if you opt for the daily SMS, right, so daily SMS is also sent to the parties indicating where they stand and what is their position today in the market and all those things. So they give regular updates. This is one basic important features which the market does. Then the information regarding payments and payouts arising in calculation of position of members is transferred at the end of the hours electronically. This is also very important because settlement, whatever the positions of the buyer gaining or losing on that particular day, right, so that gets settled immediately on the same day, and this is done through electronically. So using flat files for the clearance banks and members. So it happens through the HDFC clearing account, and it directly comes and sits into your demat account. Okay, whatever you have opened with your vendors, whoever may be the vendors. So the objective of this NMCE is to organize trading in such a way that possibility of default is almost eliminated. So I told you this exchanges normally, right, nowadays, they're all well organized. Okay, and they get into good standardized contracts, and especially the big exchanges which are there, right, we are the third largest exchanges in the world today. Okay, commodity exchanges in the world. So we since we operate at global level, right, and we operate we attract investors from foreign countries and all. So we have given such a cushion in our system that it takes care of entire mechanism of the transaction, and there is nothing called as what I call the software is not working properly, or putting a risk on the buyers and sellers, or doing some defaults, that is settlement not taking place on time, or the margin money is not getting credited to their account on particular time, and all those things. So having said so, let us go back and see still in detail what are the other features which are there in NMC market. So the next one is I'll just see what is relevant for you. I'll just highlight only on those points. Okay. They also have exchange provide some systems, the TCMs, to select the commodities in which the TM can trade, and also fix the trading limits of each TM. TCM can also monitor the position of TMs only. So what is this TM? TM means trade margin, it's called. Okay, trade margin. So trade margin is already fixed. Okay, they fix the margin for each trade, and also they fix the limits Okay, so they fix the limits for trading also. So as I told you, there are some essential commodities which also gets traded in the market. So it becomes very important at the time of allocating whatever the available commodities are there, so that it benefits all the members who are interested to go and buy that shares or buy that commodity in particular. So what they do, they fix the limit also. So that means minimum limit can be fixed. So you need to go for buying only 100 units of that particular thing, not less than 100. Or they may even cap at the highest level also, saying that only 400 units can be bought maximum at my point of time on the particular day of trade. So you cannot exceed more than 400. So this is in order to encourage investors to get into trade and see to it that there is no monopoly on a particular commodity by only particular few sets of traders. So in order to see that all the people who are participating in market get equal advantage of going and getting that particular commodities, right? They have fixed the limit also. So trade limits are fixed, and also that is trading members, we can call it as. Okay, so trading members are fixed within it, and this is monitored by the respective brokers, okay, who are all authorized to book the orders and transfer the transfer the allotted orders to the customers. Okay, so their responsibility is to see all these things. So this is one thing which has been added by NMC, National Multi Commodity Exchange. So they even make it very transparent, the system how it works, so that they give equal importance to all the investors. So they don't want to see that one particular commodity gets in the hands of only few bunch of investors or something like that. So that's why they fix the limit. So minimum limit and maximum limit is fixed, and you need to go within that limits itself. The initial margin is levied on all open positions of the members and their clients. The initial margin percentage on each commodity varies depending upon the market volatility. And the margin so calculated is reduced from the total margin of the member available with exchange, and accordingly, further exposure is given to the balance amount. As the IM increases, the exposure shall decrease. So here, initial margin, as we have discussed earlier itself, initial margin is fixed based on the volatility. Okay, so how that particular commodity has performed over a period of time, and how that particular commodity is been dealt in that particular market on that particular day. So it's basically this keeps on changing. That's what we meant to say here. So initial margin is not something which is fixed amount or fixed percentage. So it keeps on varying with respect to the volume, depending on the market volatility. And that point we have already discussed. This will be deducted. Okay, this amount, initial margin, whatever you have given, right, that will be deducted, and the only balance amount needs to be given at the exposure time. Accordingly, further exposure is given on the balance amount. So this is very important point with the exchanges in order to protect the interest of the investors. Okay, so this is the margin process what they follow. And the next one is about mark to margin. Here also same concept. It is a mechanism which is devised by the exchange to prevent the possibility of potential loss accumulated to the level where the participation might willingly or unwillingly commit default. So this mark to margin is something concept which we have dealt in detail earlier, but here also the mark to margin is again relevant because the National Multi Commodity Exchange also, in order to prevent the possibility of potential loss accumulating to the level, the participant might willingly or unwillingly commit default. So this default nowadays it's highly difficult for the parties to go and create defaults, because they are all standardized, and there are a lot of checks which has been placed, and the clearinghouse agents are very much monitoring the movements of the accounts of each and every parties to the contract. So question of default is highly not possible, but yes, there may be chances of default, especially when with respect to the system failures or system related issues or some theft of some codes or something like that. Yes, there may be risk of that also. Okay, wherein the person may claim that he has not done the transaction, somehow it has happened on the online because of someone has stolen his password or something like that. So default may come up due to those reasons, but again it needs to be proved in the court of law. But as far as markets are concerned, as far as the electronic systems are concerned, right, it's highly difficult for someone to call that the scope for default arises through that electronic exchanges. So yes, there are instances, but again, it needs to be decided. Okay, sometimes when huge volumes of transactions are taking place, there may be some problems happening in the banks or servers or whatever it is. So such things may happen. Okay, I'm not saying it will not happen. It may happen, but that needs to be taken again in the legal side. So going legally again and deciding upon the issues and all those things, yes, some point of what do you call time consumption or wasting of time or the risk is involved in that. So default may be there in such cases, but not actually if everything is correct or if the terms are set properly, you cannot escape. Okay, so in simple that can be used. Then all traders on the exchange during the day and all positions for the day are marked to closing price for the respective delivery contract, and notional gain or loss is worked out. So as we told you, especially in this commodity exchanges, right, or any derivative products for that, okay, whether it's on shares or commodity or whatever it is, they work out day-to-day changes, what is taking place in that particular position. That is, how many people have opted for buy position, how many people have opted for sell position. So that defines demand and supply. Okay, that shows what are the demand and supply position which each persons are taking in that particular commodity on that particular day. So whatever the notional gain or notional loss is there, not why we are calling notional gains or loss, because the actual gain or loss you will come to know in derivative products only at the time of maturity of the contract, because that shows what is the agreed price and what is the expiry date price. So that gives you actual loss. Okay, till that point it is notional loss only, because we don't know what the actual loss will be at the end of the termination of the contract, because these contracts are valid for 3 months like that. So we have time bound under which these contracts will be working out. So you cannot say that. You cannot predict the loss properly. Okay, and only thing is notional loss or notional gain, and that is only thing. But actual gain or actual loss will arise only at the end of the termination of the contract. So we need to wait till that point of time. So, but in exchange, this type of exchange, what happens? The servers or electronically, the system automatically calculates depending upon the positions what you are opting, whether you are a buyer or a seller. Okay, that's the position. Whether you are a buy position or a sell position. So, based on that, the day to day at the time of closing of that particular day, they try to find out what's your position on that particular day, whether you gained, notional gains were made or notional losses were made on that particular day, and that gains are assessed, and accordingly that money, whatever amount of gain or loss is there, the difference amount, okay, that needs to be transferred to the respective account from the gainer to loser. So that is something which is there in the market. So that is one thing. The next one is such loss, as I told you, gain is debited or credited to respective members at the end of each day. The outstanding position of the member is then carried forward the next day as the closing price. So this is something what they do it. So after seeing the daily position, whatever the closing position is there, whatever the price prevailing on that particular day, right? So that will be carried forward as next as the opening day. So the difference amount is getting settled on that particular day itself to the account, and they will be carrying these figures. So that's why we are calling it as a notional, because this is not the price what we have actually worked out. Our actual price worked out is our exchange price, which we have fixed based on the underlying asset. So that is our price, which for which contract needs to be settled. So ultimately, whatever the time or date of expiry of the contract is there, that will be the date on which your actual position of whether you made gain or loss from that particular contracts will be judged. Till that time, it is nominal, not actual. So there is something called a special margin here also in NMCE. So as we discussed generally about special margin and all, here also we have the concept of special margin. It is here something which you need to know interestingly is this is nothing to do with the risk management tool. Okay, it is not a risk management tool because of which they have kept this special margin, but it acts as a what I call a speed breaker type of things. Okay, so special margin is something you take not to protect you from the risk. Okay, it's not the objective of keeping special margin is not to protect you from the risk of volatility, but it is something to put a position of a speed breaker type of thing. Okay, what is a speed breaker? Because there are positions of sharp increasing or falling in price and all those things. So in order to see that you don't cross that limit, okay, they put you right in when you are traveling on highway, some roads and all, highway roads and all, they restrict the speed limit 60 kilometers per hour, all those things. Even though it's a empty road where you can drive 100 kilometers per hour also, but they put some speed breakers. They say don't go beyond this. Okay, it's a caution which they give you. Okay, so don't think that this is a risk management thing. What the exchanges do. This is not purely keeping the risk management into fact as a factor, but it is to see the put a check on the volatility of prices in the market, that is increase or decrease in the movement of prices of that particular commodity. This special margin is set. So special margin is not for risk management, it is only as a speed breaker, so that they try to play around a price, okay, where there is no too much of volatility, increase or decrease or rising or falling in price, all those things. So this you need to remember one more point on this special margin. This margin is applicable only when price reach certain levels. Okay, that is above or below the previous day's closing price. Okay, so whatever the closing price of yesterday's close, right? So on taking that any increase or decrease. Okay, so they keep that level. Okay, they know about the markets on that particular thing. They can predict the market on various by using various factors. They predict the market. So where the price reaches a particular level, then they ask for special margin. Okay, it's not for all contracts. All contracts they don't encourage this. Only to certain contracts where the price reaches a particular level. So at that level, it may be either above or below the previous closing price. Okay, so that is taken as a base. Closing previous, that is yesterday's closing price, will be taken as a price, and they see what is the level which you can expect of movement of that particular price of that commodity in that next day. So next day at the time of fixing this what you call special margin, right? They see the volatility of that particular movement of that particular price in that commodity, and after reaching a certain price level, they ask you to pay for special margin. Okay, so please remember, this is not a risk management tool. Okay, the price this is only to check the price level movement. Okay, this is in order to act as a speed breaker. So if you don't allow it, what happens? The price keeps on fluctuating at a rate. Okay, people will be start booking orders at higher rate and all those things. And since it's a commodity, we need to be very careful, because unnecessary increase in price creates hoarding and all. So people will not release that particular product in the market because they are getting good price and they want to wait for the position up to 3 months or something like that. Then they will try to release because they are getting a good price after that. So since these type of criticalities are there, there needs to be some type of control. So it's just like a control mechanism. This special margin is just like a control mechanism which can be employed, purely keeping in mind the speed breaker concept in volatility of prices, to check the prices, to control the prices. Okay, so that is the logic behind this, not risk management is not a logic here. Then delivery margin, as we were talking about yesterday. So here I told you delivery margin will normally be before 3 days of the expiry of contract, but in this NMC it is around 12 days. Okay, 12th day of the contract maturity month. So whenever the contract maturity month comes, right, that is 12th day of that day is called as delivery margin. Okay, this is applicable again to both buyers and sellers, and from the 12th day of the contract maturity month. So whenever the contract matures, right, so 12 days before that, okay, that is called as delivery margin. So you need to pay, who, both the parties, buyers and sellers, should pay the delivery margin, and make sure that on that particular day there will be no issues between settlement and taking ownership of whatever is to be sold by the seller and whatever should be bought by the buyer. So there should not be any confusion, or there should not be any delay, or there should not be any problem. So keeping that in mind, this delivery margin is kept. So last class I was talking about delivery margin is normally 3 days before the termination of the contract, but here it is around 12 days. Okay, on the last month of the contract, that is just before 12 days of the last month of the contract. Then price bands, daily cap and lifetime cap is fixed here on all commodities. They keep on commodities to prevent extreme volatility of unhealthy practices of concern in the market. So daily cap is especially to prevent the volatility and also to remove the unhealthy competitions or unhealthy practices. So normally what happens, right? There are many people who book it's the legal way of doing it. Okay, so they take two positions. One is they book on the as a buyer, and also at the same time they act as a seller. Okay, there are various ways of doing it. Okay, there are something called as collars, caps, and all those things. So these are the different terminologies which operates in market, where the buyer wants to take different position at different point of time in order to mitigate his risk. So he wants to take some different what he does, he bets for one commodity to another commodity, and he takes to take different positions at different point of time on different commodities. So this is normally adopted in order to minimize their risk. Okay, so there is something called as daily cap and lifetime cap. So this cap is in order to see that the bandwidth under which the price moves should be limited, so that the loss doesn't go beyond your expected limits. So this is purely keeping two things in mind. These caps are put into place keeping two things in mind. One is volatility, that is price fluctuation, and the second one is unhealthy practices. Unhealthy practices means there are different ways of how the people try to fumble the market itself by taking different routes in order to show that the market doesn't perform in a right way, or the market will be misguided by too many positions of buyers frequently changing, and this will create a lot of ripples in the market, wherein the genuine investors doesn't gain confidence in entering to the market. So there are a lot of malpractices or unfair practices which goes even in spite of having so much control over the market. So sometimes it is legally allowed. Okay, where different types of camps are positions which the buyers or seller takes in order to minimize their loss. They may go in for different ways of looking into different contracts. Okay, simultaneously going for different agreements, so that they want to try to bring down their position of loss, what they are supposed to make in the coming months, because of volatility or because of the unfair practices. So in order to check on all these things, these price bands have been fixed. So NMC fixes the price band, So the band price is the price under which the trade normally takes place. Okay, so they give the band price. Every exchanges gives the band price under which the contracts needs to be obliged upon or to be entered upon. So this is something which they work it out on daily basis. Then final settlement in NMC, final settlement is on the expiry of the future contract. The settlement is by way of delivery. So delivery means here you can take the possession of the goods. That's what it means. So again, it's an option here. So I was talking about this option. The delivery is at seller's option. Okay, during the last 3 days of the contract expiry date. So last 3 days of the expiry stage of the contract, right? The seller can say you will accept only the goods, or you will accept the equivalent value of the goods, all those things. So it can be cash settlement, also it can be physical settlement of goods also, that is physical delivery of goods. So let us see the timelines here. The pay-in and payouts, that is pay-in is to whom you are paying, and payout is for the buyers who are paying out in order to buy that. Sellers and buyers position, paying and payouts. Delivery is by way of debit or to the buyers, and credit to the sellers, to the relevant clearing members clearing bank account. So members clearing bank accounts, I told you we need to produce at the time of entering into the contract with the clearinghouse agents. So they ask for your bank details and all. So settlement will take place on online payment only. Okay, it happens through bank transactions, directly crediting the transaction to the person who gains, or debiting to the person who loses. Okay, so it's a book entry which happens, and there is no cash transaction which takes place in here. So entire thing is done through system. Okay, electronic transferring of the funds into your account. So the time is T plus 3 days. 3 is the date of allocation of delivery. So when the date of allocation of delivery takes place, plus 3 days from there, that is what the settlement takes place. On due date, if seller fails to tender delivery or fails to square off his position, then the higher price of the contract during its currency is taken for cash settlement, in marking all undelivered outstanding position to final settlement price. So this is something where if the seller on that particular day does not honor the contract, okay, if the seller fails to tender delivery, if he doesn't give the delivery of that either physical product or either the equivalent value of that product, then the highest price of the contract during the currency is taken for cash settlements, in marking all undelivered outstanding position to final settlement price. So even the outstanding contract of such type of person gets terminated, and the price gets settled on the day by looking at the highest contract price which is prevailing on that particular day. Then resulting profit or loss is settled in cash. So this is in case of people who are where the seller is not honoring the contract on that particular day. So final settlement loss or profit amount is debited or credited to the relevant clearing members' clearing bank accounts on T plus 1 dates. So that is the expiry date is called as T date plus 1 date. So within 24 hours of the settlement of the final contract date, right? So the profit or gain, whatever is there, the final settlement will be done, and also the whatever needs to be paid to the clearinghouse agents will be settled on that particular date itself. So there are some important features of NMCE. One is online surveillance is there. So surveillance is very important to monitor the what type of buyers are entering into the market, what type of sellers, their credibility, and their credit worthiness, and their genuinity. See, all these things needs to be monitored because if there are some people who are entering into market who have some bad reputation in other markets, or let us say they are already people who have traded in stock exchanges, and now they have a bad reputation, they have created a lot of problems in stock exchange, now they are coming to this commodity exchange. See, surveillance needs to be done. Surveillance is basically to check the credit worthiness by bringing lot of norms in place. So not only that, even the surveillance in terms of pricing, okay, monitoring the price or volatility, volumes, number of volumes of that particular commodity, and analyzing the method of real-time graph queries, alerts, if any, especially which is coming in terms of government announcements or some international policy changes or weather reports or something like that. Okay, so these are all the factors which needs to be judged upon, okay, before verifying the how the contract goes on. So that is called as online surveillance, and this is done through your online application itself. And whenever you log into NMC website and all, you can see that various graphs, charts, and various analysis and various expert opinions and various volumes which have been traded over a period of time, various prices prevailing at different point of time. All these things are available on the website of NMC. So that is nothing but online surveillance. So you can look into all those information before taking some position into enter into the commodities which are traded in NMC exchange. So that is one point of reference what you get for all your transactions which are taking place. Then offline surveillance is also there. So offline surveillance is not done online; it's done offline. That is just looking at your transactions which you are kept at that particular place with the particular agents and particular delivery things. So it includes like margin requirements. That is, what is the margin you are supposed to keep, whether that margin has been kept by you or not. So this requires frequent visiting your accounts and checking your balances on day-to-day basis. Procedure in respect of exceptional handlings, position monitoring, exposure limits, investigation techniques in case if they find there is some fraudulent or some misrepresentations or something which has been done. So it requires us to just go for investigating those things also. And any disciplinary action required, especially if you have violated the norms of the stock exchanges, or if you have violated something to do with your bank accounts and all these things. So this offline surveillance is also very important, which gets into all these things. Okay, so that is about MCMEX, and similarly, you can study other exchanges also, like ICEX is there. Okay, so these things you can get it in the website of ICEX only. So you can just have a look at other exchanges also. The only differences which will be there is in terms of margins. Okay, so there will be different types of margins in different exchanges. So just go through that. General margins I've already told. So it will be either a combination of these margins which will prevail. Okay, so other than that, most of the exchanges perform the same level of duty, whatever I've discussed in now. So only thing is some specific name they will be calling and they will be doing. Similarly, MCX is also there, one of the biggest exchanges. You can also refer to that MCX also. So there is something called as trade guaranteed fund. You need to understand this. So the main objective of this trade guaranteed fund, it's called as TGF sometimes. Trade guarantee fund is to guarantee settlement of bona fide transactions of the members of the exchange. So in order to keep the interest of the stakeholders, that is basically our investors. So this fund has been created at the exchange level, and this fund is utilized whenever there is a problem with the settlement of the contracts. Okay, so if there is a problem which arises due to the problem with settlement of the contract, then only those trusted parties to the contract, that's what it's called as bona fide. Bona fide means trusted by both the parties. So those, if exchange trusts those person who has lost because of the negligence or misrepresentation or fraudulent activity taken by one person who has through whom the contract was entered into, in such cases this trade guarantees fund money can be used for settlement of that particular person who has suffered the damages. So that is called as trade guaranteed fund. The advantage of creating this fund is to honor the bona fide customers, that is real customers, true customers, or honest customers, because they are our investors. Okay, we need to protect them, or else tomorrow they won't come to our exchange. So in order to protect that, and in order to stabilize the market also in sometimes, because if some rumors or something like these things happen, and if that gets spread in the market, right, then it may be very difficult for them to operate also. So that is how it has. That is how this trade guarantee fund needs to be utilized only to settle the transaction in the cases of where the bona fide transactions are done, but there is still unfair trade or the misrepresentation of fraudulent activity has taken place, which has impacted the buyer or seller to a larger extent. So in such cases, this guaranteed funds will be utilized. So basically, in simple, it is to protect the interest of the investors. Okay, so that is very important. All the members of the exchange are required to make initial contribution towards trade guarantee fund of the exchange. So the contribution will come from the people who are participating in the exchange. So all associations, there is no refund of this. Please remember, there is no refund of this fund. It is used only for settlement. Okay, if it is a wrong settlement due to some wrong transaction happening, or because beyond the control of the exchange, if something has happened, then people needs to be settled for that that position what they have taken, right? So this is not a refundable fund which is created here. All associations of the exchange are required to make an initial contribution towards the trade guarantee funds of the exchange. So this is one of the parameters also. Okay, so this becomes one of the parameters also at the time of SEBI monitoring the exchanges. Sorry, here it is Forward Market Commissions. Okay, they were the people who will be looking into all these transactions. So they will be monitoring it. They will be looking into the whether this particular exchange is having sufficient trade guarantee fund kept along with that all these things. These become part of monitoring assessment also. And commodity exchange rarely touch this fund because of the excellent system put in place. As I told, it's all electronically device systems today. So rarest of the rare case, you see that the transaction they are not getting honored on that particular day, or the seller not paying the money, or the buyer not delivering, not taking the position of goods on that particular. See, it's the rarest of rare case. If this is not done, then the purpose of clearinghouse agents itself is defeated, because clearinghouse agent's role is to see that the trade transaction and settlement takes place smoothly between buyers and sellers. So when there is a clearinghouse agent who are monitoring on day-to-day basis, I don't think that there will be default. So these are the rarest cases where the default happens because of negligence, or because of the untrusted party who is running away without honoring the contract, or not traceable, or something like that. Rarest of the rare cases like that, this fund will be used. So the application of this fund is in a very rare situation, okay, which may not arise at all sometimes. So circuit breakers, daily price limit. I told you a very important concept, circuit breakers. So this is one of the tools which are available in the market, especially in order to monitor the movement of prices of essential commodities. So they fix something called as daily price limit. So circuit breaker is also called as daily price limit fixation. So depending upon the type of commodity, so this is fixed based on the commodities and its relevance and importance in the market. Okay, so it's not for all the commodities. So I told you majority of the commodities are essential commodities where the common man interest is also involved. So in such cases, what these people do, exchanges fix something called as circuit breakers or daily price limits. So the objective of this keeping this daily price limit is to ensure that the price doesn't fluctuate beyond or below these limits. So both are important. Coming down below that limit is also not advisable. Going beyond that limit is also not advisable. So they keep some breaks, circuit breakers. So the day when the trade opens, and if the price is reached within a short span of time, then after that trade gets suspended. That means that doesn't go forward. Trade doesn't take place in that particular commodities for the whole of the balance remaining trading hours. So it stops there. Then and there itself it stops. And all commodity exchanges have a procedure for serious market volatility. So since it's all essential commodities like sugar, or ragi, or wheat, or rice, pulses, oil seeds, and all those things are traded here, right? Especially agriculture commodities, which are consumed by majority of the people, irrespective of their social status, right? So what this circuit breakers or daily price limit helps is that it fixes a cap on the price at which the exchange should honor the contracts on that particular day. So beyond that, you cannot trade it, because beyond that, if you start trading it, then people will start hoarding and create temporary demand in order to increase the price, and accordingly, the market also prices goes up. The commodity market's objective is to cover the risk of the producers. Okay, it's not to it's not something like you give better price to farmers at the cost of common man and all those things. It's not like that. Okay, its interest is to main objective of that is to provide the minimum support price for farmers and to encourage them to do the farming activities, especially when we talk about agriculture commodities. So they want to protect the interest of any people. So even it can be the merchants or the traders in gold, silver, all those things. They need to monitor the movement of prices there also. So it's not only the farmers what they are looking into, it's generally the business people who are involved in that commodity. So they need to protect the interest of those people also. At the same time, they need to protect the interest of the investors also. So both points they are trying to achieve by fixing the daily price limit. So the circuit breaker is something which is inbuilt in the system itself. So whenever the price reaches that limit, whatever they have fixed that price for the particular day, the automatically the trades closes there. That means it gets suspended. So even let us say the market opens at 10:30. By the 10:45, the market goes for a price which the band has already been fixed. Beyond that, if it goes, then it automatically suspends the trade. So even after 10:45, also you will not be able to do any transaction for that particular day because the price has already reached the limit what it was fixed by the exchange at that point of time. That is called a circuit breaker. So it's an inbuilt system which suspends the trade automatically. So it will not allow anyone to punch the order beyond that point. So that is how the circuit breakers have been designed. I think that's it in the settlement process. Okay, I think I covered everything in the settlement process. So this ends your fourth chapter, settlements. And the next important thing will be on the derivative front. So I'll be taking this session in the next class. So only one chapter is left from my side. I think by this month end, I'll be completing it. Not even month end, I think in next 4 or 5 classes, I'll complete the entire syllabus. So if any questions are there, you can ask now. So floor is open for questions. So if you have any questions, please do ask. So any questions? Do you have any questions for me regarding settlements? So whenever you get time, right, just go to different exchanges. Okay, I have given the list of exchanges. You can visit the website of those exchanges, and you can see various informations which will be displayed on that. So that will be very useful for you. Okay, so just go into that particular exchange websites like MCX website you can go, or NCME also you can go, or ICX is there, that also you can go. So just go into the exchange, the various exchanges which are available on the website. So you can see how the things take place, and they also shown the volatility price and the maximum price, minimum price, all those band price, everything it is seen there, and even the margin level, all those things they have put the information on the website. So and the procedure for registration and all those things are available on the website. So whenever you get the time, right, just go into that particular website and see all the information, which will be very useful. So only one chapter is left, I think the second chapter. So I'll take up that second chapter from the next class, probably tomorrow itself. Okay, I'll let you know the timings for tomorrow. So no questions. Okay, we'll end the session now. Okay, thank you.